How would you show up for yourself today if you were 100% certain that tomorrow your biggest and boldest desire come true? Let me start by saying that even if you are doing something that you are incredibly excited for, that you love to do, that you enjoy doing, and even if you feel like this is your purpose, there is gonna be days and there's gonna be moments when you're gonna have a lot of doubts, when you're gonna feel like what you are doing is not working, or you are not actually good at that, or you're gonna be starting doubting yourself, or you're gonna be starting doubting even your ability of doing that thing. And this is very common, okay? So I want you to understand that it is normal to find yourself in that situation, in that actual doubt of if what you are doing makes any sense, or if it's worthy, or if it's good enough, or if it is speaking to people, if it is worth of doing that. And I want you to realize that every single person that you perhaps look up to, that you are inspired by, that you are motivated by, found themselves in such situation sooner or later, because we are human beings and our psyche is working in such ways. It's always kind of putting us in the situations where we will doubt ourselves, or we will doubt our abilities, or we will start questioning everything, and we will start questioning if anything even makes sense. And this is very normal and very common. And if you are right now in the situation where you, for example, you had a lot of momentum going, and you have been feeling like, okay, I am getting there, I am on my way, I am achieving what I'm trying to achieve, and suddenly you get to this point where you start doubting everything, you feel like you want to throw everything into the trash, or you want to start over, or you just want to completely remove yourself from that thing that you've been putting effort in. It is completely normal and it is common. And it is actually important what you're going to do in that moment, because this moment can be the breaking point, okay? Because this is where all the people, many people, 99% of us, we give up because we feel like, okay, it is not working. It is not worth it. I don't see any results. I have put all of this energy, all of this effort into this, and I still don't see any results. It's been too long and I still didn't improve my situation. It's been too long and I still didn't change the situation. I have been working on myself. I have been trying. I have been doing so many things, and none of them are working. And I said this can be a breaking point because literally this is where 99% of people give up on everything, and they decide, okay, if it didn't work all this way, all this time, then I might as well just put my energy into something else, into something more worthwhile, into something more secure, into something that I know for a fact that will work out for me. And I want you to imagine right now that this is some kind of timeline that we are talking about, right? And let's say for 5 months you've been putting effort, and you are on this timeline where you're trying to get is somewhere over here. You are little by little moving the needle, day by day, month by month. And somewhere over here, you feel like, okay, what I'm doing is not good enough. I'm not moving anywhere. This is still really, really far away from where I want to get. Let's just remove myself and let's just give up on it. But you don't realize all this way that you have come and you have overcome, and all the obstacles, all the things that have been kind of very difficult at the beginning, because when you start something new, it's very difficult to get yourself used to that. But you are all the way here, already building that beliefs, already building that identity. Where you're trying to get is here, and somewhere along the way, you give up on it. And if you completely give up on it, you say, okay, if it's meant for me, I'm gonna come back to it in 3 months, 1 year, who cares? But you don't realize that when you come back to it, you are always starting again from this standpoint. Even if you build a little bit of identity or a little bit of habit or anything like that, if you stop, if you decide in your mind right now that you are stopping, you are dropping, your starting point is going to be here again instead of where you are right now. And let's say when you pass this very hard obstacle, this very hard standpoint where you are right now, where you are being tested, where nothing is happening, where you are doubting everything, where you are thinking that nothing makes sense, if you pass this, you might as well skyrocket over here. So instead of this taking you 5 months, 5 other months, it might take you, let's say, just 1 month, and you will be directly where you're trying to get, right? This is literally collapsing timelines, and this is literally the testings that you need to go through, and you need to kind of prove to yourself, prove to the universe, prove to the whatever you believe in, that you are serious about what you want, and that you're not gonna give up if something really hard is showing up for you, if some obstacle comes up for you, if something is testing you and testing your commitment to that thing, that you are not going to drop it, and you're not going to say, oh, well, might as well just drop it altogether and not even do that. Okay? So I want you to realize that where you are right now, if you only could see the whole picture, if you only could see, like I'm always mentioning that in the games, perhaps you are watching a tutorial of how to go through certain levels, or you know how to get through that level, or you watch someone play that game before, you know how those levels go, and you kind of anticipate where is the next level and where is the ending, right? Where you win the game. So if you could imagine your life in that sense, that you know that there are certain levels, and that you know that the next level is bringing you so much closer to your desire, to your identity, to your reality, you would be not giving up on yourself, right? You would keep going. You would not even doubt your ability of ever achieving that, because you know that your commitment and your discipline and you showing up day by day and showing up especially in those moments when it's hard, that's what's gonna get you through. That's what's gonna get you to the next level. That's what's gonna upgrade you immensely. And this is actually the whole point, because it is super easy, super simple to progress in life or to achieve something when the days are perfect and the conditions are perfect and energy is perfect and you feel great, you feel on the top of the world. And you can do that, right? That's very easy. That's very simple, actually. And we all have days like that, and it's amazing to actually have those days. But the real test of your commitment, the real test of your devotion, in a way, is those days when everything seemingly goes wrong, when you don't feel like doing it, when you would rather lay on the couch, when you would rather watch your favorite show, when you would rather go out with your friends, but you would rather numb yourself and you would rather do anything and everything else rather than what you know you're supposed to do. And deep down, we all know what we are supposed to do, right? Because that voice, what I'm always talking about, that inner voice, that inner feeling, that inner truth, will be always, always louder than anything that we are hearing, such as our distractions or our programming or our conditioning. All of that is going to be very differentiated from what you know and what you know deep down that you need to do. And for that, you actually don't need anyone. You don't need any coach, you don't need any mentor, you don't need anyone to tell you that, because you know that already. And chances are that if someone actually tells you that this is what you're supposed to do, and you know deep down that's what you're supposed to do, then you're gonna get triggered because you are not doing that, and you feel called out on your truth, on your inner knowing that you know what you're supposed to do actually. And I know that it happened to me previously and before many times, when I was actually kind of, I know what I'm supposed to do, and I know it is always this knowing. I don't know how to explain it better for you, but you know deep down what you're supposed to do, and you know that even when it's like really difficult choice, when it comes to, I don't know, ending a relationship, when it comes to moving to a different place, when it comes to quitting your job, when it comes to starting your business, when it comes to changing the direction of your life, when it suddenly hits you and you know that this is the only way you can go through and you can move through life. But it is very hard to kind of grasp it because we are in this comfort zone, and whether or not you're happy, it's still comfort, right? So that's why we remained in those comfort zones, because they don't necessarily make us happy. I would argue that 99% of the time they don't make us happy, but we have this safety, we have this comfort, and that has to do with our natural human need of safety, right? And it is a very natural need of our human suit, of us as a human beings, that we want to feel safe. We desire to be back in safety. That's why we remained in the comfort zones. That's why we don't take the bold moves. That's why we don't make the bold decisions, because it's all based on this primal kind of animalistic instinct that we have been kind of born with, right? When we are born as human beings, we need to be taken care of. We cannot get up like most of the animals and just start doing our things and start walking or moving around. As human beings, we are very fragile and we need to be taken care of. So from the very first moment that we enter this earth, that we enter this planet, we are wired for safety. We are wired for safety. Safety means our survival, right? Quite literally. Our survival depends on our safety and how safe we are, how safe we feel. That's why so many of us run back to the comfort zone, and some of us never even leave the comfort zone, never even dare to leave it, because it is so primal, this instinct of us to keep us safe, to keep in the comfort zone, to keep in the familiar and in the safety. And that is directly tied to how we are able and capable to rewire our nervous system and our subconscious mind, right? Because our nervous system is, from the moment that we get here, is wired in, and it has some kind of elasticity, right? But there comes a point where if we try to stretch it beyond, and if we are not safe and familiar with the beyond, it's gonna bring us back. It's gonna literally, quite literally, force us to come back to where we have this expansion, what we are familiar with, what we can withstand, right? So that's why if we want to have bigger desires, if we want to have a bigger life, if we want to have a bigger and bolder ways of how we are showing up in this world, it is literally, quite literally, essential to work with the nervous system and with its capability of receiving more, of expanding to bring more for us. And in this case, it's really important, actually, what many of us forget, and that's why many of us end up sabotaging our desires and our dreams, even if we achieve them, is the ability to hold this new reality, this new identity, this new expansion, right? Because we can force the stretch, we can force the new, we can force the expansion to happen. But then, since, like I said, it's elastic, what happens? It bows back, right? It goes back, it shrinks back. And that's when we start sabotaging that, because we are now somewhere outside of the comfort zone, somewhere outside of the safety. And we are animalistically, primally trying to get back to the safe zone, to the comfort zone, to the zone where we have this expansion. And if this expansion is not enlarged enough and it's not rooted in this way that it can hold more, then we will be always coming back to the roots, that the settings that we received, or what we are comfortable with, what we are familiar with. That's why it's important of expanding that, but also holding the new reality, holding that new expansion. Because you can be training for that and say, okay, I expanded my nervous system to receive more money. And then you are able to receive them one day, but the next day your expansion shrinks back and you are not capable and able to hold that. So it's also important to work on holding that, to keep that expansion going. Okay, so that's what's it's really important, and that's why so many of us are struggling actually with the new identity, with the goals, with the keeping up the promises to ourselves, with the, I don't know, for example, losing weight, getting our physique. All of these things takes time. It takes effort, and it takes a very good intention behind why you are doing it. And it takes all of these steps necessary to expand your capability and ability to receive and to hold this new reality. Okay, so whenever you are finding yourself, let's say, in this in between, or you are in between this desire, you are in between realities, you are in between identities, and you are not quite familiar with the new one, but you're also not very comfortable with your old one because you're trying to expand, right? And there comes the doubts, and there comes the imposter syndrome, and there comes all the things of what if it doesn't work out, what am I even doing, this is very unfamiliar, this is very unsafe, this is very new, I am not comfortable with that. All of this comes to test us and test our ability to actually proceed with what we said we want, and to actually go forward with what we said we're gonna go forward with. Okay, because it's very easy and simple, like I said, do those things and keep up the promises and keep up the expansion when everything is going right and the days are great and everything is kind of set to the plan and in control. But the days that will reveal all the things that we were not prepared for, we were not expecting, and we have to deal with them right now, and they are very uncomfortable, they are going to show the proof of how committed we are actually to that new version of ourselves, how devoted we are to this process of going forward regardless, and especially in those moments when it feels damn hard. And I know if you are watching this video, you can relate to that, because we all know that life is not perfect and it's never a straightforward line. Anything and everything can happen, and especially when something goes down, then another thing can come up, and a lot of things can gather out of nowhere while we are here busy trying to achieve something or do something or progress or up level. Life happens, right? Life happens to all of us, and it's very unexpected, and it sometimes can be very brutal. But those are the moments where it really tests you, and it tests you if you can withstand that, if you can really and truly hold the vision regardless of what's happening, and especially of what's happening and where you are trying to get, or if you're gonna go back to your old reality, if you're gonna go back to your old comfort zone, if you're gonna literally give up on your dream and start again, or not even start again, because like I was saying at the beginning of this video, there is a certain timeline that we have no idea. Literally, we have some kind of vision of how it should be and how it could be, but we literally don't know the timeline. So like I was saying at the beginning, in this timeline you can be somewhere here, but in fact the new level could be quite literally right here. It doesn't have to be here. You know what I mean? We don't know where it is, we don't know when it will happen, but what will help with that happening is actually our trust, our self-belief, our safety, our faith, and our discipline. How you gonna show up for yourself in those moments, actually, because you are the only person who can hold yourself accountable, who can keep promises to yourself, and who can achieve your wildest dreams. Okay, so if there is anything that you owe to yourself, it's actually this. You owe it to yourself to show up in those moments, to show up in those happenings, to show up in those hardships, to show up on the days when you don't feel like it, to show up on the days when it feels damn hard, to show up on the days when everything is kind of going against you, to show up on the days when nothing seems to be working, to show up especially on those days when you don't see any results, when you don't have anyone clapping for you, when you don't get any validation, when you don't get any attention, when no one is showing up for you, literally, quite literally. And I know all of us been through that, and I have been through that myself, and many times I was feeling like, what am I even doing? When I started my business, I had no clue, no idea what I'm signing up for. And as I was going through it, figuring it out, there were so many times when I felt like, okay, I might as well just give up on that. I might as well just, completely throw that and just do a regular job or something and go back to society and just make enough money just to live my life comfortably. But then when I got quiet and when I heard my inner voice, when I heard my inner truth, it was literally suffocating by that, me even thinking that I could go back to something or I could not give it a chance, I could not go for it. So that's when I got my answer. I knew that I couldn't and I wouldn't ignore that inner voice anymore. I couldn't and I wouldn't ignore that inner truth anymore. And I know that if you're watching this, you 100% have something in your mind that you feel so excited, so on fire about, and you know that's what you're supposed to do, but currently your reality is not showing up for you. Currently your reality is not reflecting that for you. Currently your reality could be complete opposite of what you want to be or who you want to be. And that's when your trust is being tested, okay? That's when your faith is being put to test, because it would be actually no point in achieving our dreams and our goals if it was happening so easily and immediately. We have to actually become the person who we wanted to be, who we needed to be, on the way of becoming that, because that's kind of the irony of this universe. It makes us go through it and it makes us prove to ourselves that, yeah, we can do it actually. And all the way we have been holding ourselves back from it by telling ourselves different stories about how it's not going to work, how it's not working, how we will never get there, how it's so far away, how it's not possible. All of these limiting beliefs that are actually the biggest lies our mind can come up with. But we had to go through it in order to realize and actually free ourselves from this prison, from this mental chatter, and realize, okay, if I was not supposed to do that, if it was not actually for me, if it was not meant for me, why would I have this fire in my soul? Why couldn't I give up on it? Why would that not let me give up on it? Because this is the test for you to show up for it before you get there. And that's how you're going to actually achieve that. That's how you're going to embody that. That's how you will get there. And quite literally, this is not about faking it before you're making it. This is not about pretending. This is not about any of those things. This is literally about becoming the person who you're meant to be, who you want to be, but you are becoming it way before you get there. And then you get there and then you collapse the timelines. So this in between, maybe don't even think about it as in between. Maybe just think about it as a part of the journey. There is no this and that. It is right now. We are always in the now. We are in this very moment. What you're going to do about it? How you're going to do the thing that you want to do? Are you going to stay committed to that thing? Are you devoted to that thing? Do you really want to do that? What is your why behind doing that? What is your why behind your dreams? What is your why behind your boldest and biggest desires? And that's gonna uncover actually why you're doing that. And that's gonna motivate you, because if your why is really backed up by your soul, by your mission, then you don't question that. So you just have to remind yourself why you are doing that. And while nothing is showing up, nothing is proving that you are on the way, nothing is supporting you, you need to double down on doing that for yourself. You need to be your biggest cheerleader, you need to be your biggest supporter, and you need to show up on those days, especially when you don't feel like showing up. And I can tell you, for example, if you are exercising, and I know that I have been so many times in this situation when I felt like, oh my God, the last thing I want to do today is exercise. I feel so lazy. I would rather just lay on the couch, read my book, relax, do something else, and not exercise. And especially exactly the day that I push myself against all these excuses, all these things, all the mental chatter that doesn't even make sense, that's when the workout hits so great and my body is feeling great. I feel energized, I feel great, I feel on fire, I feel inspired. And that's just an example of the physical exercise. You can apply it to anything and everything. So whatever you feel like it's the last thing you want to do today, and it is because of the mental chatter, it is because of the safety, it is because of the conditioning, it is because of your subconscious mind telling you, no, let's not do this, it's not comfortable, it's not that great. That's when you do it, and that's when the magic happens. That's when the things can turn really fast and really in a big way into your favor, because you are literally going against your conditioning and you are proving to yourself that you can, and you can do it no matter what the mental chatter will come up with, no matter what the excuses will come up with, no matter what your mind will come up with. And you prove to yourself that all these stories are just stories, okay? You don't have to listen to these stories. In fact, you should not listen to them, because there is always going to be this voice, internal voice, that's going to try to lure you into the comfort, try to lure you into the things and safety, all these comfort zones that we build for ourselves, to not let you into that so-called danger. But then when you do that regardless, you prove to yourself that there was actually no danger indeed, and there was actually expansion on the other side of it instead. So the mind, like I'm always telling you guys, the mind can be the biggest ally if you know how to use it and utilize it, or it can be your biggest prison also. It can be your biggest critic. So you have to be very careful, and you have to be very mindful of what you believe and what you want to follow and what you listen to, because we are constantly listening to our mind 24/7. So we need to be very cautious about what we buy into, what we believe. And this is not about not trying to think those things at all, not trying to think negatively or any of those things. I'm not talking about at all, because we all have those thoughts and they will come up, especially if you're trying to reach new level and achieve something new. They will pop up, and it's very normal, very common. You don't have to beat up yourself for it or beat those voices or try to remove them and delete them, because they are completely okay. But it all comes down to what you pay attention to and what you buy into, because you can just let them pass you by, you can just let them be there, and you can focus on still getting things done which you want to get done, and still listening to the positive side of things, okay? To the cheerleader, to the supporter, okay? So it is always a choice. It is all up to you. We all have that choice. We have freedom of free will, freedom of choice. And if you start proving to yourself that you can do these things and that you can move through them, and that you don't have to listen to every single feeling that's coming up for you, you don't have to analyze every single feeling that's coming up for you, you can just move through that, you can just let it pass you by, you will be moving through life with much more ease and peace at the end. So at the end of the day, it's all up to you. And you have the choice. You literally have the choice. And you can change your life. You can change your situation. You can get from one side to the other side. You can move from where you are. You are not stuck. At the end of the day, it's all about how committed are you to your vision, and at the end of the day, to yourself, right? Because it's all about what you want. You have all the decisions, you have all the choices, you have all the options to decide what you want to commit to. But if you commit, then commit fully. right? Don't just try to give it the chance and see if it works. Commit yourself fully. And then when you commit yourself fully, you will see how that works for you, if that works for you. And I am pretty sure it will work for you if you commit yourself to it. Because if you do, there is no other choice just to work. Let me know in the comments how this video helped you change your perspective and how you can actually show up for yourself today and what you're gonna do differently from now on.